right, guys, we are here today at A HOPE with the president and the executive director, Miss Brandi Winkleman. Miss Brandi, how are you doing today?
Good, tired, good, hot.
I see that. As soon as I got here, you guys was walking in with some kittens, and I was like, "They're already going at it." We got in. We're at the new location. This place is called Snip Happens, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And we're over here off of Pine Blossom Road.
Yes, 6951 Pine Blossom Road in Milton, yeah.
Awesome. And you may hear some booms and bangs and all that. The reason that is because they're still putting this place together. Outside, you got a lot of construction equipment going on. So if you hear any loud booms or anything like that, that's what it is. They're already at work trying to help solve the animal problem. I wouldn't call it a problem.
Overpopulation issue, lack of resources.
Yes, very much so here in Santa Rosa County. All right, Miss Brandi, I guess we'll just jump right into it. Can you tell me the background, the history, and how you guys got started? Where did the idea come from? And let's take a trip down memory lane.
Well, so basically, I would say where it all originated from was working at the animal shelter. I volunteered at the animal shelter, the Santa Rosa County shelter, for a few years. I actually got hooked because a good friend of mine, Tara, works there, and she had a big adoption event that she wanted our roller derby team to come out and help promote the animals.
Wow.
And I just felt like these animals struggled so much to get exposure, but then we got there and we were like the marketing salesman of the day. And I think we did, 20 or 30 adoptions in one day, and it was incredible. And I was hooked.
Right.
And so I just told her I'm going to start volunteering. And so for the next 2 years, between 2014 and 16, I was volunteering there Monday through Friday. I would get my kids off to school. I would go to the shelter and volunteer, and then I would be home by the time my kids got off the bus in the afternoon. And I did that for those 2 years. And as I was there, I was watching so many animals coming in the door, and, they were just euthanized often. It was just kind of a commonplace thing there to have so many animals just be put down for existing. It was difficult.
That's heartbreaking right there.
It was hard. I think the worst things were the days where I would come in and go past the cat rooms, and there would just be carts full of cats and kittens inside of their carriers, just reaching their little paws out and just crying.
No.
And I just knew where the cart was going. And this was an everyday occurrence. Like, you would just know. And I know how I started feeling kind of closed off to it. You kind of start...
You have to, I would imagine.
Right.
In that kind of job right there. Because if not, that'll eat you up right there.
And it's weird thinking back on it. You have to stay mission focused, is what it is. You have to go in and realize what you're there for every day.
Right.
And as a volunteer, I truly had a choice of whether to go each day, but it doesn't feel like it at a certain point. It feels like if you don't go, those dogs aren't going to get walked. It feels like if you don't go, those cats aren't going to get the interaction, because you feel like you see all the staff just overwhelmed, overburdened. They were just sad and angry all the time. And seeing that and knowing the options are, they can have the staff who literally had no time to do anything else of kindness to the animals because they were overworked, and just feeling that compassion fatigue setting in. And so you felt like you're trying to be the joy coming in. You're trying to bring happiness in there, and it got hard.
Oh yeah.
It got devastating. I've seen full litters of puppies be euthanized for having mange, a very treatable illness.
Yeah.
I've seen it for ringworm. I have seen dogs be surrendered at the front desk and not even have to show proof for ownership and be told that they bit somebody and had to be euthanized.
Whoa.
Yeah, and it's hard, and listening to the front desk. And let's make sure that we're clear that this is history that we're talking about, and how we got where we are.
Exactly.
So, I was up there listening to the way that the receptionist interacted with the clients. They treated every customer walking in the door as if they were somebody coming in to surrender an animal or have abused an animal, because they got so tunnel visioned, like over time, just inundated with the negativity. They forgot there's also adopters walking in the door. There's also donors walking in the door, but they treated everybody like an abusive client. And it was sad because I saw both sides of it.
Right.
I wasn't angry at the front desk or the staff in general. I wasn't angry at the clients. It was like I saw all these perspectives of they're coming here to get help, and these poor people working here are getting dumped on.
Right.
And that was hard. And I think the big kicker for me was one day my friend who works there, most loving person ever. She doesn't have children of her own. That's her world, you know? And I asked her what she was doing for the day, and she spoke to me so coldly about her day's task as if she was going to fill out a bunch of paperwork that day, and just said, oh, they always do this to me. I've got 47 animals that I have to put down today, so I'm just going to be busy in the back doing that. But it wasn't like, she didn't cry, she wasn't emotional, she wasn't stressed about it. She was more treating it as if her workload was just too much for the day. Right. Not that she was killing animals all day long.
Right.
And people in the animal welfare world see more tragedy for the things that they love and fight for the most than anybody else.
I can imagine.
Could you imagine being in a place to where something you love so much, you watch it die every day and it's not even your choice?
No. That's why it takes a special type of person to do this job right there. I want to, and maybe maybe you don't. How does it get to that situation? How are we in that, where we're at right there with that, or was back then?
Where we were, yeah.
Is it because,
people don't know.
They, just overbreeding? Tell me how did we get there to make where our shelter was having to do that right there?
That's the thing, is I don't think anybody before that point had stopped and asked that question or had the resources to make something change. It was like everybody was so beat up by that point, and anybody I even interacted with to try to help me expand on these ideas, I was confronted with no's, won'ts, don'ts all the time. I had so many people telling me, you're never going to get through to the county. That's never going to happen. You're never going to raise enough money. People aren't going to let you do that. Nobody likes animals like that. Like, I was told constantly that it was like everybody else was the problem. And that's whenever I decided, I'd already been collecting county shelter statistics for years, since 2010. And so I'd started posting them, and one of our earlier on volunteers had said, these statistics, people aren't reading all these numbers, right? They were just kind of brushing by them.
Right.
And so I created a Facebook group, and in that group I started posting beautiful, colorful graphs, something to draw the attention in on to what's going on. Like, yes, green good, red bad. Right. And so that started drawing attention in on what the problem was. And then in 2017, we took in 6,058 animals, and 4,000, and I think it was like 4,058 of them were killed that year. And in a county that has 175,000 people living in it.
That's crazy.
That's intense.
Yeah.
And as I was talking to people, they had no idea.
Yeah, I didn't. I had no
idea.
Clue.
That's what I tell people all the time. If you're not in that world, you just don't know. And so when you tell me the county commissioners are never going to allow that or do that, my question is, have you told them? Have you asked them? Have you gone up there to the podium without being angry and screaming at them, and you've presented something factual that they can say, you know what, that's you're right. Have you done something besides just said, you have to pay for this and you have to change this? And if you haven't done anything outside of that, how do you expect somebody else to always solve the problems that you see are the most defined in your realm? You can't do that. You have to go up not only with stating the facts that are problems, but also offering up solutions that you can bring to the table, because we can all do something. So that was the big thing, was working at the shelter, and I got fired as a volunteer. I think that should go down in history. But I got fired as a volunteer, and it was...
How does a volunteer get fired?
I am a very stubborn, I know I'm a very stubborn person, but watching those animals dying all the time, knowing that, you know, these animals, and let me tell you, even the manager there, I watched her for, it had to have been a month, every day going into the back to a dog who was literally couldn't get up off the ground. She would sit in the kennel with him and slowly hand feed him. He was found like that in such terrible condition, and he was on death row. He was just sitting back there on death row, but she still treated him with such respect and dignity every day.
That's awesome.
And then to see the family show up to come collect him, and this family was horrible. They were, I mean, just, you could tell that poor dog lived a terrible life with them. But at the time, there was no, it was basically like, you own this animal, here's your animal back. The animal was on death's door, and they had to pay for any sort of care for it just to keep it comfortable while it was at the shelter.
Right.
And this family didn't pay for any of it. They just came over and yelled at them and wanted their dog back. And this manager who had been there caring for this dog every day, she had to just let him go. And that is compassion fatigue too. That is when you, humans and animals alike, anything that you're giving yourself to over and over again, and you feel like there's no way of resolving the situation, it can completely destroy your mental state. It's devastating to know I'm giving everything every single day, and nobody sees what I'm doing, and it's not affecting anybody else. So I can't imagine being somebody who kills that many animals a day. And I say kills because they weren't euthanized for reasons that were appropriate. They were euthanized for space. And so the last time our shelter euthanized the last animal for being pregnant was in 2021. So that's, yeah, I mean, can you imagine, but it's not only upsetting to us on the outside of it, but could you imagine being the staff worker that comes in that day and is told that they're on your docket? Like, today, you're going to kill this animal. And my friend has had to kill animals that she was in love with, like dogs that she's wanted to take home, and she would adopt herself, but she just, you know, she knows what her capacity is.
Right.
And she's had to kill them herself and live with that. And so that's why I got let go at the shelter, was because I was somebody in there. They had no transparency. We weren't allowed to take pictures of animals on death row. We weren't allowed to try to get rescues to take animals that were going to be euthanized.
That makes no sense to me. You would think that those would be the first ones that you wanted to, you know, try to help out.
They were scared of backlash a lot. They were scared of opening up those doors and allowing people to see what's going on in there. But what they weren't reminded of is it's not their fault of what happens when they end up at the shelter.
Right.
What the problem was, and what I noticed happening was, sure, a rescue might come and pull some animals, you know, here and there. But the amount of animals entering the front door was not ever going to meet up.
It's way overwhelming.
Yeah, and what are they supposed to do if they have only so many kennels? Just pack them all in there and then let them die and suffer and not have attention and never be socialized? I walked down the hallway one day, and an animal control officer, or a police officer at that time, had put 2 dog fighting dogs that had been picked up for being trained and bred dog fighting dogs, tearing up other dogs. They accidentally put them in the same kennel. And so I walked by thinking there was mud and dirt all over the kennel, and I looked closely, and there was a dog locked onto another dog, and it was bleeding out right there in front of me. And it was careless things that kept happening like that I just thought, it's not that we need to be transparent so we can just tattle on what's going on in here. There is too much going on in here that they're never going to get control of it if people don't see and help. If you're afraid of being transparent because you're afraid of what they're going to see and find out, then you're doing something wrong.
Right.
That's not, I mean, I even tell our staff, I'm like, pretty much like, yeah, go on my purse, find whatever. And if you find something cool, let me know, because I had no idea it existed, you know? So I think that transparency can be an excellent thing, and it raises the bar for everybody.
Right.
You know, think about cameras in homes and such now.
Oh,
think about the
good
differences
night.
that of people's actions we have now because they know that there's more cameras.
Yeah.
That's another way of being transparent. So you're less likely, it's a loss prevention method. You're less likely to do something negative if people are able to see what you're doing.
Exactly. Right.
And this is a government controlled facility. Your taxpayer dollars were just murdering animals every year, and nobody thought to stop it or say anything or step in. And I'll never forget the very first big eye opener, I think, for them too, the shelter staff, was when they finally opened up and said, okay, we need toys for these big dogs. You know, we have these dogs who are going kennel crazy. We need to keep them occupied. So many shipments of Kong toys. And do you have dogs?
Oh yeah, that's my world right there. My two little guys.
The Kong toys, though, how expensive are those Kong toys, right?
Oh yeah.
They got boxes upon boxes upon boxes donated to them, just showed up at the shelter, and they were just mind blown that they got all these. And I thought, all you had to do was ask.
Imagine what could have been done earlier. How many lives could have been saved? Oh, that's frustrating.
It is. And it was a lot of talking to people. I would talk to people after they surrendered their animals, and I would say, what were you told that was going to happen? They're like, oh, they're going to get adopted out. And so then I would show statistics, and we had a 93% kill rate for cats at the time. 93% of cats who entered that shelter were euthanized. They weren't adopted. They were killed. And so people were under this belief that they were just being saved and adopted out. But where did you see pictures of adoptions happening at? Where did you see that ever happening at? It wasn't.
That's wrong right there to tell those people, anybody that, because they're thinking, you know, I don't want to just throw them out on the street,
right.
So I'll go to the shelter where I know it'll be taken care of, and then they turn around and tell them, it's okay, we'll find them a nice home right there. So you leave thinking you know, well, I did all right, you know, and that's wrong. That is wrong.
And it
right
was
there.
It was really sad, and they've had a lot of staff changeover over the years.
I imagine so.
Which was a good thing, and they're definitely more transparent now. They're more like, no, come in and take animals. Please come in and adopt. But it's taken them a long time to get there because they were so afraid of the backlash. But anybody who's watched it over the years, even just on social media, you can see the clear communication changes over the years. It went from bad people inside shelter kill animals to this whole defense of the shelter. Like, you shouldn't take that there. That's too small to be there. It's going to get sick. It's not about what happens to it when it gets to the shelter. It's about what the people's decision is before it needs to go to the shelter. Right. There's offers for spay neuters. There's offers for food and litter. I see it all the time right now.
Yeah.
And it's a mindset.
You're absolutely correct. Now, we obviously got into this problem because it's a good thing turned bad. I think a lot of people around here, they love animals, and so they go out, get animals, but somewhere along the way, many of them trip up and things happen. You have one that they don't get them spayed or neutered or whatever. Then you're having cats having litter after litter after litter, and then they get swamped with them. They don't know what to do. And next thing you know, you've got cats running around everywhere. Same thing with dogs right there. So I guess we went from our love of animals, created this problem basically.
Absolutely. And not knowing what needs to happen, what the resources are.
Right.
And with my background, my upbringing, I just think about it from that perspective of I can't assume that people are ignorant. What I have to assume is that they just don't know yet.
Right.
Just like with the county commissioners, when I first brought up that we had a breed discrimination, they had no idea about it because it wasn't an ordinance. It was just literally in the animal control officer's handbook on their desk. And they didn't believe that we euthanized dogs just because of the guest breed. And so it was based on color or maybe type of ears or face or whatever. It wasn't based on what their actual breed was. So there were 6 different breeds that got euthanized just for entering the shelter.
Automatically.
So they would, and the even worse to me is not that they're being euthanized, but then they have to go sit on death row for 10 days before being euthanized.
So
And
they got to mentally suffer first.
Right. And it was like Rottweilers, Dobermans,
Pit bulls, I would
Dalmatians,
imagine.
pit bulls, wolf hybrids. And think about how many animals look like any of those.
Yeah.
Any of them. I mean, you can have lots of different colors. I think every animal, pretty much, unless it comes straight from a breeder, is a mixed breed.
Right.
So that's why it was important to me. My dog Dodger was at the animal shelter, and he was listed as a Rottweiler and set to be euthanized at 7 weeks old. And so whenever I took him, I actually got him DNA tested. And that was what I first brought to the county commissioners in order to show them that we were just euthanizing animals based on color, because he was black and tan. And so I went and got him DNA tested.
Just because of the... So let me explain something real quick. After we get done, I'll show you a picture of one of my puppies.
Yeah.
They're palm cheese, okay? Now, Smokey's, picture a Rottweiler, black and tan with the little tan lines right above his head, is identical to a Rottweiler, the world's smallest Rottweiler, okay? Identical to it. But if he comes in like, oh, that's a Rottweiler puppy, just gone. And really, it's a palm cheese, you know?
Nobody would ever guess that.
Oh, my God. and, you know, you brought up something about, you know, being on death row. Everybody thinks, oh, they don't know what's going on. Yeah, they do. They know what's going on.
They're sentient beings. That's something I will fight for until the day I die, is that they feel and they know, and they are intelligent creatures.
Absolutely.
And they feel our human emotions too. We talk about that pretty
Yes.
often, about how if we're really stressed out, then our animals are going to know that.
Yep.
I mean, that's how emotional support animals are, which, to be fair, you know, I think every animal is an emotional support animal. So I think that they all emotionally support us and each other. So I think that is a really cool thing to have that feeling. I mean, we're all animals, and to feel that is,
we're all connected.
To understand a little bit more.
Yes.
And the DNA test, just so you know, I brought that up to the county commissioners, and I presented it on the board, and I had each of the county commissioners guess what breed my dog was. And I had a big picture of Dodger up on the board.
Right.
And ahead of time, I had already known Bob Cole had Doberman Pinschers. Well, Doberman Pinschers were one of the 6 breeds that they euthanized on intake.
Okay.
And I grew up with Dobies, so I know. And my parents used to breed Dobies,
Right.
and so I love those dogs too.
Absolutely.
And so I knew that and put him up there. And so, of course, you know, they guessed Rottweiler, Doberman, all these things. And I put his DNA test results up there, and he is 50% Labrador Retriever, 25% Staffordshire Terrier, and 12% Pekingese. And I said, you guys were going to euthanize a 70-pound Pekingese. That's what you were going to do, because you labeled it what you wanted to. And I said, it's unfair. And since then, my dog Dodger has been featured on the Dodo. I don't know if you watch the Dodo videos.
Yeah.
And he's actually in the Dodo book that's on Amazon for sale for the odd couples, because he's besties with my rats. And so
I like that.
Yeah, so he is a really cool dog.
Well, I noticed, speaking of rats, you was saying that you guys actually rescue rats as well.
Domesticated rats, not wild
Right,
rats. Domesticated rats, because once again, sentient beings and animals that are hyper intelligent. Scientists are studying on rats because of their brain capacity functions like humans.
Right.
And their lifespan is shorter. And what an honor that we have these animals who give their lives to save the lives of humans.
Yeah.
I mean, just such an honor that we have that. I don't love that we still test on animals, because I feel like there's so many computer programs and technology that we should be past that by now.
Hopefully AI will help some of that up. So
absolutely. But
nice.
yeah, I think that's something to just really respect about animals is all that they give to us too, you know.
So when you presented all this to the commissioners and they guessed and all that, what ended up coming from that?
The breed ban was lifted in October of 2018,
Nice.
so it no longer existed. And they started opening their eyes more. Of course, this is when Brad Baker came on over animal services at the time, and he did an excellent job. He came in with a different perspective as well. I think weird people in new positions is just the jolt that some things need in life. And so I'm very weird with my history of, you know, I have been down so many paths, but I've been homeless before and been able to keep my cat. My cat had to be declawed. I lost her. I lost my house during Hurricane Ivan, and so I had to move in with my parents, and I had to make a choice to give her up to a shelter or to get her declawed, and I had to make a hard choice. But my cat is 18 years old right now.
Still going
She's
strong.
healthy. She gets her annual visits. She's a great girl. No litter box issues, things like that. I did it obviously the most expensive way and the right way, but you know, decline is obviously not a good thing anymore. But we didn't have other options at the time.
Right.
We didn't have nail caps and things like that. So, and I had to make a decision to keep her as part of my family at the time. Would I do it again? No. But I've made those decisions, and being homeless and broke all the time and trying to keep jobs, having her, I've moved with her into places that didn't allow pets. She is not outdoors at all. Right. She is pure black. She wears her collar all the time. But she's been in lots of places with me, and I've kept her. And I think it's a different perspective than others who feel so strongly that people who are too young shouldn't be able to adopt. You know, of course, 18 and up for contracts, but also I still have my cat, you know, and I mean, I wasn't 18 when I got her, but I was young and could not afford my own life and still got this cat and cared for her this whole time. So I don't believe that that's a general concept of all young people.
I believe it's the individual.
Absolutely. And I think that lots of young people need a connection.
Yes.
And think about the things, the different choices that you make because you have pets. Think about how you plan for emergency evacuations. Think about how you plan for your will, putting them in your will. Think about how you care for babysitters when you leave town. You know, give that young adult some sort of responsibility like that, some sort of something to feel responsible for, empathetic towards, and they'll make, I mean, it's made, I know that there's times whenever I was younger, I wanted to go out drinking, but I was like, I can't go out drinking because then I won't be able to wake up in order to feed this animal the next day, you know? So
it made you a better person.
It really does, and it makes me feel like I have somebody at home whenever I get there.
Right.
So that, and so Brad Baker kind of came with the same background a feral cat found him one day, and he didn't know what to do about it and had to get some resources and ended up getting it fixed and taken care of. And it, you know, it's his barn cat now, but he wasn't that person beforehand, but he saw a different perspective that, you know, they were already there. He didn't bring them in. He didn't put them there, but he had to take a responsible step to get them taken care of. So he had that perspective, and his sister loves domesticated pigs. Oh, and nice. So, you know, he had a lot of rescue knowledge ahead of time, which made him come to the table with a lot more knowledge and help out a lot more.
Right.
So that was 2018, and at the beginning of 2018 is whenever we talked to the city of Milton and got them on board with the community cat program.
Nice.
And so
that's what I'm seeing right here.
Yeah, those two things happened in that same year, and it led to 2019 whenever the county had been watching the city of Milton with their community cat program, and it worked out. And so they implemented a countywide community cat program.
Right.
So
you got the ball rolling on pretty much all of that right there. So
we love changing mindsets, laws, ordinances.
Yeah.
Like I think that it's not about nobody wanting to change them or nobody wanting to do something. It's that not enough people know what can be done.
Now, that was in 2018, you said, correct?
Yes.
So if I'm not mistaken, A HOPE, you guys started in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
So this place, as it is now, was just in its infancy right then.
This didn't exist.
Right, no, this didn't. I'm talking about the program,
Yes.
the organization. With that being in its infancy, and you're dealing with this right here, how did you keep them going and grow, this organization into what it is today?
So in 2017, it was basically whenever I was at the shelter, like I said, I got fired from there. I tried to fight to get back into it, but they wouldn't allow me. And so I just said, okay, we're going in a different direction. Mm-hmm. And so what I saw the most was, like I said, that fire hose, that intake of animals coming in.
Right.
And I knew spay neuter had to be what stopped it, because it was young animals were mostly coming in the door, or animals that were being overbred, inbred, and not being cared for. So unwanted litters.
Right.
And so I knew spay neuter had to happen. And I tried things like a GoFundMe, or just telling people that I would build a clinic, but everybody's like, who are you? And why I'm not doing that. So the next step was to take my own personal van and find the nearest low-cost clinic, which was 2.5 hours away in Panama City. Wow. And I decided that I would try to take animals there to get fixed. And our first transport over to Panama City, over to Operation Spay Bay, was in October of 2017. And I convinced 9 owners to bring their animals to a 4:30 a.m. drop-off so I could drive them over to Panama City to get them there by 7 a.m. to get fixed. And since then, we started going, that started before we had a facility at all. Mm-hmm. We started going every other week, and my numbers started slowly increasing.
Everybody's finding out about it now. Oh, it went from who are you to can you take mine too?
Yes, yes. And so we got an offer. The city offered us, they had a little building that they weren't using, and the mayor, or the city admin at the time, offered it to us and said that we could use this building kind of as our hub, because it seemed like every neighborhood we would use to drop off animals in, whoever's house they offered up for the night, as it grew, was more cars blocking more driveways in more neighborhoods. And finally there was an HOA member in some neighborhood who seriously complained to the city. And I want to thank her.
Homeowners.
Well, I want to thank her every day, because out of that is what happened with the city saying, hey, this person's really upset. They don't want you blocking driveways.
Right.
But we have this building that you can use. So if you'd like to do that. So thank you to that person. They made a push, and that's how we got into the city building that we so lovingly call the Paw Pad.
No, that's the one over off of Washington Street,
yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Okay.
On Washington Street, yes. And it was just a gutted out, like a garage, basically.
Right.
And so we got in there, a bunch of us volunteers got in there, and we started building shelves, and we built the big desk, and we made it into our little hub. And that's where we started doing the drop-offs for the transports over to Panama City. Right. And we did them every other week. And we took about 50 to 60 animals every other week.
Wow.
Yeah. And for the first 3 years, I was the driver. Every time we went, I would do the drive back and forth. And then luckily over time, we got more and more volunteers who offered to do the driving.
Right.
And we, up to this year, we've taken almost 9,000 animals to get fixed over in Panama City. And this is public animals. These aren't like our pets or even our fosters. These are the general public's cats and dogs. Mm-hmm. We've taken almost 9,000 animals over there to get fixed over the years.
So these are when you say they're not pets.
No, they're not our pets, but they're the public's animals. Okay. Like we're not like friends and family bringing them in.
This is just random people on the street coming into
any community member who needed it.
Wow.
And we've gotten grants to cover some of the cost at times to subsidize it even more. We've had $25 cat specials. We've gotten the Florida Animal Friend grant 3 times now. We've gotten the Sunday's Child grant once before. And all of that money has always been applied towards community members getting to have a more subsidized amount to pay for. So instead of it being the already affordable rate of like a $50 cat spay, it would be down to $20, $45 or something. And we've done microchip clinics and rabies clinics. all at that paw pad. So once again, to that HOA member who allowed us to have a building of our own.
Thank you.
It's our little 660 square foot hub over there.
Right.
And so it's done
still in
so
use
much.
Today?
Yeah, we're still using it today. We started moving over, but we still have it. Hopefully for a little while, they'll continue letting us use it because it is really set up for like our foster program right now to have a place to come get supplies and our volunteers to have meetings at and such. So it's been so helpful.
Right.
It's those little things over the years, you know. It's the little things.
I've learned there's no such thing as a little thing. You may think it's a little thing, but it's happened for a reason. So
I'll tell you what. So I mean, let me tell you how we got this property.
And that's where I was going to go next. How did that over there lead to this beautiful place right here?
Because I love that you just said the little things are the big things, because that is a big thing right there.
Yes.
It's those trips over to Panama City. We were doing that for a while, and there was just a volunteer that was driving their vehicle, because they would meet us sometimes part way, and never thought anything of it. But she followed kind of what we were doing and didn't even know that she had my phone number. Just sent me a text one day and just said, I know you guys are looking for a property to build the clinic on. I want to buy it for you.
Oh, wow.
Of course, I thought it was a joke, right?
Right,
Right.
A little too good, yeah.
Yeah, and so she met up with us and wrote me a $50,000 check and said, this is a down payment, just so you know, I'm telling you the truth. I want to help you out.
Oh, wow.
So her deal is she gave me an amount of money that I could spend and told me to do what I could with that, and that whenever I found the property, she would pay for it. And so in my mind, it was, okay, this is how much money I can spend. If I spend this much money on the property, then I can have this much stuff on the property, like the building, you know? And so that's kind of the mindset I went into, and I'm like, all right, let's find property. And so we went out hunting for property, and that's how we found this 25 acres.
Right.
At the
This
time.
is a beautiful place right here, the land. And when you come up here to this place, it's the way it's off the road, back in the back, like there, you're not on right next to the road. You have all of this land to do all of these great things. And when we did the tour of the place, you had mentioned we can add on too.
Yes,
so
it's a metal building. Yes.
So this place is eventually going to grow, hopefully.
Yeah, and we plan on having numerous things on the property. So my ultimate goal has always been to build a building for every reason animals are euthanized, and so a neonate ward, a feline leukemia ward, a dog behavior unit.
Oh, wow.
Just having places that animals who can be saved, animals who just need some different resources, different attention, different people interacting with them will have a place to go, and adopters can find them, because there are people for these animals. Now, obviously there are reasons to euthanize animals, and as somebody who is about to start her second semester of certified euthanasia training, I firmly believe euthanasia is one of those humane releases.
Right.
And we have used it as a cuss word for so long that we forgot that it is there to give them a peaceful release of life. It is our gift to them. It's a gift that we can give to animals we cannot give to humans.
Right.
And I think that's the most ridiculous thing ever, because a human can tell you whenever they're ready to go. Hey, if I become a vegetable, let it be on record. Pull that plug. I'm done.
I won't be trapped inside my body just...
Right?
No.
So I think that we've used it negatively for so long, and what happens is people will find other ways to kill animals if they cannot do it for an affordable price in a respectable location. I've had to drop off animals before at shelters to be euthanized in the back because I couldn't afford private practice prices. Right. That's so hard at their last moments that you have to decide what's best for the animal immediately versus what's best for the animal and us together at the end, just because you can't afford it.
Right.
So, that's one of the services we intend to provide here is for the right reasons. Of course, I will absolutely have stipulations and boundaries, you know.
It's basically, a last last option.
If they're medically needy, right?
Right.
And so that's that is a time when I think that the owner should be able to be with their pet.
Absolutely.
And get to say goodbye to them in the kindest of ways.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned animals with other, issues and things like that. And, you can hopefully, get people to come in and adopt those instead of euthanize them. Well, you mentioned you have a kitten right now. Can you tell that story real quick?
Blackwater has cerebellar hypoplasia. So that basically, it's just like a neurological disorder to where it never gets worse, it never gets better. People call them wobbly kittens or drunken kittens because they have spatial issues. So they are kind of walking wide-legged, or right. Some of them can't walk at all, and they're just kind of bobbly-headed sometimes. But it's not something that is life-threatening. It is something that they're just born with. Right. Like I said, it never gets better, but they can strengthen up and work to.
They can live with it.
Right, they can use it. And I'll tell you what, he'll take other kittens out. Like he will chase them down. Yeah. He plays harder than they do. The healthiest, uses the litter box like a champ, eats on his own, perfectly fine. So
things like that right there is what you're wanting to do.
Yeah, and he would have been put down immediately
exactly.
back in the day.
Right.
Now,
and I was going to get to that. Yeah. Before we finished it up, I wanted to ask that right there. I know what you're about to talk about. Mm-hmm. Is that still going on today that you know of?
No, and that is a big thing. I want to make sure that anybody knows that I absolutely love the shelter staff. I have never seen them as doing anything wrong that was within their control. And that's why I say the catalyst for all of this was the day that my friend was so coldly able to say that to me, where she right. was so just flat across the board. Yeah. And it disconnected completely. And I just thought, that's not you. And I can't allow you to deteriorate like this. This is right. bad. Do they still euthanize? Of course they do, but they've gotten to a place to where they make choices that are informed and not as just, we're going to have to get rid of those, or 20 new ones are coming in, we're going to have to kill 20 in the back to make space for them.
So it's no longer a conveyor belt then?
Not at all.
Good.
Not at all. We are now in the part where they're trying everything to save them.
Good.
But now, because of that, because people see the shelter as a good place and a positive, a safe haven,
they're going to swamp them.
They're trying to swamp them, or they're not understanding why they won't take animals in at times. And it's because now they have managed intake, meaning that they will take them in based on space and time allotted,
right.
which is how every animal owner should work.
Right.
Whether you're business or not, you should never be taking in animals beyond your capacity. That is the number one hoarding cases that we've worked have been rescue organizations that got in over their heads, and that
really?
We've had to find a way out. Because when you think you're the only person that can save them, when you think that nobody else can do the job that you're doing, then you've completely shut yourself off to help. And what happens is I think you mentioned it before, you're talking about people having puppies and kittens and not putting a stop to it,
right?
Because they love them.
Yeah.
And so that is one thing that our organization has done numerous times, is different than other places. We don't go in and take your animals. Our job is not to go in and take your animals. Our job is to go in and figure out how you can keep your animals, keep them safe, keep them healthy, get them whatever they need, and not keep mass producing.
Right.
I have seen some really gross inbreeding to where animals have been bleeding out their pores, or just missing limbs, or just so much inbreeding has happened that all the animals look kind of the same, but they're kind of off in some way. Like, what's that, Deliverance? Like Deliverance for animals?
Yeah. Oh, wow.
So cue the banjos. Yeah, it's been really devastating, but the most devastating thing is the human who has gotten to a point where they believe this whole time, these are my babies and I love them, right. and I'm connected to them. They can't see what's going on. And that's so sad. I've seen so many dog and cat situations that's so sad like that. And they just need help.
Yeah.
And 90% of the people that we've helped in those situations, we've asked them how they got here, how they got to this point, and they'll tell you they asked for help when they had 1 or 2 or 3, or the first time their animal got pregnant, or the first animal that got hit by a car, or they thought that there was a BB gun bullet in them. They asked for help at that time, and whomever they asked for help from shut them down, told them they couldn't help, or they had it continuously happen to them to where they just thought, I'm not going to keep putting myself in this position.
Right. So I'll just deal with it, and
I'll just shut myself off from the world.
Wow.
And have all my animals in here safe.
Yeah.
And I will deal with it. And it is devastating, and that is something that we really focus on, is helping people. We are really big about helping people keep their pets.
Good.
Or people continue caring for their outdoor cats, because it's not about, we're not Planet of the Apes. These animals aren't running their own show. They're not in charge. They need us.
Yeah.
And we need them, but we have to be responsible about it.
Absolutely.
Hey, I'm Brandi Winkleman, and this is Snip Happens here. I'm going to give you a little tour of the clinic. A little bit, it's kind of empty right now, but I'm going to give you a tour of what's here right now. So, coming in the dog side right now, over here, this is Miss Rebecca at the front desk, and that's the cat side over there. Everything's built here to have 2 different pathways for animals, and the color and the setup and everything is for calmness and for the least amount of stress for animals. So these are the dog intake rooms. This is one of them here. And each room opens up to the back hallway, so the owner, if they're leaving their pet behind for surgery, they can head out and the animal can head to the back. And then we're heading to the back here. Down this way, excuse any sort of extra mess going on. Down this way here is the transport entrance, where large loads of animals can be brought in and dropped off from that door and brought in. And there's 2 ways here. Once again, there's a cat side and a dog side. And so down this way is going to be just our front office break room. And this will be the dog room here. It's just set up with temporary kennels for now. And then we're heading into where the magic happens. And here is our prep and recovery area here. Our pack and scrub area for making the packs, the surgical instruments, making them all sterile and ready to go for the veterinarian for the day. This is our prep area where our techs are getting them shaved down and cleaned up for surgery. And here's the surgery suite. It is the most expensive room in the entire building here. So it's set up for multiple vets to work on multiple patients all at the same time, because it is high volume. And so it's set up, we're able to do anywhere from 30 plus animals, spay and neuters per day. And back in here, like I said, that's the dog side over there. So here is our cat side. So these are the cat kennels. As you can see, our kittens are playing in there right now, having a good time, or napping, it's cat nap time. Our little kitties in there. And we have our isolation room, which it's not normally got kittens that we just trapped, but they're in there because it's nice and quiet for them. And our community cat room, which is set up extra special for our community cat trappers. So this room is actually set up with its own entrance, its own camera, everything's set up in here to where anybody who traps in the middle of the night, they don't have to hold their animals overnight at their own house or figure out who's going to care for them. There's actually going to be an outside coded entrance to where we can give them a code. They can bring in their trapped cats, lay them on a rack, put a clip number on them, sign them in, and leave it on the clipboard. This door will be locked to the inside of the clinic, but the next day when the staff gets here, we can work these cats into surgery as necessary. It's got pheromone feel-aways, that stuff in there. It's a nice little setup for them, nice and quiet. We'll keep it nice and dim for them in there.
Right.
But yeah, so this is our stuffed animals made for humane education reasons. So we had these out last night. These have organs made of stuffed organs in here to make surgeries not so scary, so children can learn as well. We love this. One of our volunteers made them. So it's got little organs. Like, of course, you're not pulling the lungs out of the stomach, hopefully. But a little heart, a little stomach. This is the colon. Yes, so she made all these little organs. They're so
wow.
cute. Yeah, I love them. And they're made for children who are like, have special needs sensories.
Right.
So they all have the
Okay.
feelings that go with them too. So you
Right.
can actually feel the differences in each of these.
Nice.
So it's so special. There's our little dog and our little cat one.
Nice.
So, but that's it. That's the
Awesome.